Greetings and blessings to everyone listening today. This is another Love Truth Sight podcast with yours truly, Bradley Loves, and the wonderful co-host Luke. Luke, how are you doing today?
We're doing good, Bradley. Thank you.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Well, today is the 6th of June, 2023, which, historically was a D-Day. And interestingly, I don't know about the subject matter, whether it corresponds to D-Day, but it is probably going to be at least all of that, a direct assault on the Luciferian ideology. Okay. So we're going to let that sink in. And this will be podcast 79, and it's going to go deep and it's going to be long. And we may even split it up into a couple of parts. But what we're going to talk about is very necessary because it's at the root of all of the problems. Just like a weed that you can see, a huge weed that you can see causing all kinds of problems in your garden. Well, where's the root? Well, the root is deep, and the root is doesn't look anything like the weed, but it's feeding the weed and it's feeding all the problems. So we're going to go back to the beginning and we're going to talk about the original lie that Lucifer told, which was that you too can be God. And we've kind of discussed that already and all of the problems and chaos that that original lie caused, along with knowledge is better than not knowledge. We've covered that. But if that's the original lie, and this one is just as devastating and just as problematic, and that lie is that evil is necessary. I'm going to let that rest for a minute and then I'm going to repeat it because this particular lie is exposed is really going to expose a lot. We're going to step on toes here. We're going to step on toes of the New Agers. We're going to step on toes of of some of the Christians. We're going to step on toes of the military and the Freemasonic movement. We're going to step on toes even on the fifth and the sixth density. That's how far this lie has gone, that evil is necessary. And it's caused so many problems for us here in the third dimension or the third density. That's why, and I'm just going to kind of jump ahead here for a second before I get into the explanation. That's why we were allowed to be overrun by negative fifth density beings. And the earth was allowed to fall under their control by fifth density positives because they believed in their philosophy, which is a lie, that evil is necessary. That's how they're saying, well, that's how you grow. And it was only when evil and tyranny showed up on the fifth dimension or the fifth density level, and it basically threatened the whole galaxy on that level, they realized something's wrong here in our philosophy. Something at the core, something at the very root of what we believe isn't right. People, the New Agers worship, came to the conclusion they had made an error. It was error in their thinking. And their thinking was that evil is necessary. Therefore, we must allow evil. But then when it started overrunning them, they got confused. And I'm going to explain that the error was that evil is necessary. Okay, so where do we start with this? You have to be able to construct entire buildings inside your mind in order to think this abstractly. And I'm sorry it has to go this deep, but we have to uncover this lie because it's at the core of our problems. Evil is not necessary. And I've said this before. Choice is necessary. This is how the universe was set up. It was designed for choice. It was designed for free will. All the New Agers believe that the yin and the yang, the light and the dark, is a result of allowing evil to stand right next to good. That causes polarity. No, it doesn't. And I'm going to get into it deeper, and this may go over your head. I apologize for that. Some of you, if you think abstractly and you're in line with the Holy Spirit and you're tuned into the God frequency, you will get this. Choice creates polarity. Okay? I'm going to say that again. Free will choice is what causes polarity. So polarity is caused by choice. Once a choice is made, that sets up harmonics. Once harmonics are engaged, then across the entire spectrum, that allows for magnetics. Okay, and there's a twist on that. I call it magnetics because it's not necessarily electromagnetism. Magnetics is a little bit different, and I don't want to get into that right now, but it sets up magnetics across the entire spectrum, which allows for the creation of geometry. And what I've just described is the creation science. How does creation get, or how does creation occur? And you might think, well, that's really deep. It is. But the way I've described it allows, and this is for the eggheads out there, allows for the idea of will, free will, and intention to be the driving forces behind creation. This allows for a level above manifest reality, or what you would call the causality or the causal plane of existence. Everything starts in the mind first. We've talked about that. Free will causes polarity. Now, Luke, you actually helped quite a bit when we revisited podcast 39. You found it, and we were doing a discussion on AI. And I re-listened to that particular podcast and had not remembered how deep we actually went on that particular podcast.
It was quite extensive indeed.
Oh, yeah. And I was like, wow, yeah, so much in that particular podcast. But what I'm telling you here, and one of the things that I was talking about is why they want to control thinking, because our thinking is creative and they want to be able to predict the future. That's the part of that podcast that really, really is pertinent here. They wanted to get rid of potentials in the timeline that didn't serve them. And they figured the only way we can guarantee an outcome with 100% certainty or 98% certainty is we have to remove free choice. But when they remove free choice, what they're really doing is hijacking creation. They're literally hijacking the creative process and saying, we will now create. They're hijacking creative process, which actually should be a godly process, which means that we are all the representatives of the great creator, and we were given free will so that we can create collectively and individually our own lives, thereby creating polarity and a whole cornucopia of events and tapestry that's beautiful because we are creative beings. What they're saying is, no, we are no longer going to allow you to create. We only want certain outcomes. So we will hijack the process of creation and we will be the creator. So what they're saying is we are now God. We have figured it out. We are now God in the sense that we are steering all of creation toward our goals. What we want, not what some guy out there wants, not what some airy fairy great creator in the sky wants. We are going to be God here and hijack all of creation because they understand that free will is creative. And actually, the process that I just described, go back and listen to it again. Once you get down to geometry, you're actually constructing reality. And they want to be the ones to do that and screw what anybody else wants. So I said pay dirt. How is this pay dirt? Well, this is a Luciferian idea. Okay. It's a hijacking of creation, which the original lie was that you too can be God. And what did we just see or witness in their circular thought process here? They want to be God. Yes, they do. And knowledge is better. And the second biggest lie is evil is necessary. Now, the reason we're talking about this evil is necessary is this is the vehicle, the second lie, that they are using in order to achieve the first lie. I'm going to repeat that because it's important. The second lie, evil is necessary, is how they are going to achieve the first lie, that you too can be God, or we are going to be God. And what they're not saying is this is a full frontal attack on free will, because they only become God if you have no free will. And the creative process is removed from you, and you no longer have any input. In other words, your mind and your intention means nothing because, like we talked about, their voice to skull and remote neural monitoring program and machine to machine interface and brain to machine interface, they are going to hijack and take over your thought process, what you're thinking. And everything we are seeing happening in the world right now is a reflection of that desire to take over your thought process. And it goes back to podcast 39, and where I said that they want to be able to predict the future and create the future and predict it with 100% certainty. Why? Because they're scared, tiny little brats that are 2 years old that don't want to live in a reality or a universe that can't be predicted because they don't believe in God. They've never believed in God, ever. They have no faith in a great creator, only in themselves. I don't even think they're capable of tuning into God, but they're the richest people on the planet. And they have no empathy or emotion. They kill, steal, rob, and pillage, murder, and maim with impunity. And they do it because they believe honestly that the world is a dangerous place. And by controlling all of it, it's safe for them. It's safe for them. Yes, thank you, Luke. It's safe for them. And those are the people that join up with the Luciferian ranks. Okay, so evil is necessary is like an engine that's driving their car, which is we are God and knowledge is better. And the new age is absolutely drenched with this concept, the yin and the yang, the light and the dark, the night and the day, et cetera, et cetera. Evil is necessary. And the matrix itself, which is a construct, and this goes really deep, and I don't know how much I can get into here, but yes, there is a devil. Yes, there is a satanic intelligence out there, non corporeal, that desperately wants to exist. And the only way that that thing can exist is to convince people here on earth that evil is necessary. And how damaging is this concept? Well, it destroyed Atlantis. And in fact, it destroyed many, many very high civilizations. The Atlantean culture was not in the very beginning evil. It wasn't. Nor was Lemuria, nor were the Hyperborean civilizations. They were not evil. They all started out in the ideas, in the pure ideas of the creation sciences, where they understood at the highest level that free will and choice were the highest, and that free will was necessary, and that they worked in line with the God forces, the creative forces, for the benefit of all. In other words, free will is necessary with guidelines, within parameters, and within rule sets. Not that free will is necessary so every man, woman, and child can choose to murder if they want. Okay. So I'm going to, stop you right there. No. Or not that free will is necessary so every man, woman, and child can go around raping little kids. So if you think that's what I'm saying by saying that choice is necessary, okay, you're falling down to the lowest denominator immediately. Free will and choice are necessary because they're part of the creative process, and within guidelines and within parameters, okay, that we all agree upon for the benefit of all of us. Free will and choice are the best bets, or the way the creative process works. Now, what happened in Atlantis? Go ahead, Luke.
I have a little question. So, are you saying that Atlantis and Lemuria were destroyed on the same basis as we have problems here now?
Okay, good question. Absolutely outstanding. Okay, here. Atlantis and Lemuria, the versions of those places that were destroyed based upon this same lie. Yes. Now, question is, let's get into potentials and the kaleidoscope, Luke. Remember how I said that there are versions of Atlantis that are still there? Okay. The versions of Atlantis that still exist are the versions of Atlantis that didn't lose their primary focus on the truth, the real truth, God's truth, that free will and choice are necessary. And they didn't buy into the idea that evil is necessary. We could go into like a 3-hour or a 4-hour long podcast about how Atlantis, through a long period of time, bought into the idea, which is a draconian idea, actually, which is a false idea, that evil is somehow necessary, that there's a yin and a yang of it all. Okay. Their original councils worked with the creation sciences. And then there was a faction, and this is written about. And Edgar Casey talked about it, and then Plato talked about it. A faction or a group of Atlanteans that called themselves sons of Belial, who were tired of the idea that the priests / scientists, pre-scientists, were withholding the true creative information, the dangerous mystery school information about how creation gets designed and how to work with creation, because these were highly esoteric and highly guarded secrets. And they wanted all this information out so that the common man, okay, again, this is Lucifer. This is a Luciferian thing. Put the most important information into the hands of the common people. No, what they wanted, these people, the sons of Belial, were just like BLM and Antifa. They were like the SS troopers, the people who wanted to cause pain and problems because they wanted power. And they realized the real power, wasn't in their hands. So they did the BLM and the Antifa thing back in Atlantis for probably thousands of years until they got their way. And they managed to penetrate the mystery schools. And the way they did it was by convincing very intelligent people with this second lie, that evil is necessary to to actually the running of the universe. We've got night and we've got day. We've got up and we've got down. We've got hot and we've got cold. We need evil. And people who should not have bought into it, eventually bought into it and started allowing lesser beings onto their councils in order to make an appeasement. And when they did that, the lesser beings who only wanted to use this higher knowledge, this creative knowledge and creation sciences for themselves, they only wanted to use it for themselves to get power and to take it away, were allowed to exist or coexist alongside of the people who were good. And that's what caused, ultimately, that is what caused the destruction of Atlantis, the appeasement of those who claimed evil was necessary. And I can't make it any more clear and any more simple than that. Did Atlantis need to be destroyed? No. In fact, are there versions of reality where Atlantis is not destroyed? Yes.
How was it destroyed?
Because they believed in the second law, that evil was necessary. Ultimately, the working out of it, I mean, look, once you say, you can say all of the political stuff that came afterward, all of the countless debates and the things that they were doing, with experimentation and the chimeras and the wars were fought for thousands of years before the final day. That's just frosting on the original cake. The original root of the problem, Luke, was they came to believe that evil was necessary. And so they allowed it. And you are right when you ask your question. You're right. We're doing the very same thing in this version of our reality right now. The Kool-Aid, the New Age Freemasonic Luciferian Kool-Aid, is that evil is necessary. And they'll spout that. That's why every single time a child is raped or someone is murdered or evil apparently happens on the earthly stage in our reality, the New Agers are the first ones to say, yeah, but we've all done it. We've all been evil. Anyone who is experiencing evil in their lives is getting karma for their past evil in a past life. Therefore, we don't want to interfere with that. We don't want to help anyone. We just stand back and say they're getting what they wanted or what they created in a past life. It's completely and utterly cold and callous. There's no love in that. And what's the driving force behind that? That evil is necessary. But remember, this idea is an engine, to be clear. It's the engine that drives the car of destruction. It's the engine that drove a particular version of Atlantis over the cliff and is driving this particular version of our reality over the cliff. And it's the engine that allowed for tyranny to show up in the fifth density.
Not a question. So
go ahead.
We have like 3 do-overs, let's say, so far, as we can see here. There's probably more, I don't know. And we have Atlantis, we have Lemuria, and we have our situation here. That's 3 times. How many more times are going to be allowed? Yeah.
Well, there's many more than that. There are civilizations going way back past Atlantis that did the same thing. It's a mistake.
So it keeps repeating until we learn a lesson here.
Not necessarily. Ultimately, remember, there's many versions of reality.
Right.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It depends upon the souls that incarnate. Or the souls that are here on Earth.
Is that
everything that...
Oh, wow. That determines the outcome, let's say.
This gets very deep. All right. How deep can I go without losing everyone? Your questions are excellent and they're great. It's just how deep can I go without losing everyone? Ultimately, thought is creative. Okay. This gets back into the creation sciences again, because above the causal level, you have free will. Will and intention is above the causal level. Then you get down into causality, okay? The law of cause and effect, okay? Which Okay, well, let's go there for a minute. Man, it's getting so deep. Not where I
My
want to
fault.
go, but I have to. Okay. No, but I mean, hopefully the white hats are going to hear this and they're going to like start ruminating on this because, they're part of the problem. They really are. They don't know it, but they're part of the problem because they've bought into the Luciferian lie. That's why they're still part of the problem. They got too many Luciferians and Freemasons running around in their ranks. Okay. So here's the thing. Causality and the law of cause and effect is the 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 balancer. Okay. Because you get people like Elena Denon, and God bless her. She's very intelligent and very smart. Okay. She does have it wrong in this regard. She just did a video, a YouTube video on the nature of source. And the first 10 minutes are brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And the last 10 minutes are devastatingly incorrect. And I'm like, wow. She blasted off to the moon, went around the moon with the first 10 minutes of her, the nature of source. And then in the last 10 minutes, she just literally blew up, exploded because she brought in new age concepts that are lies. And one of the things, the most ridiculous thing that she said, and God bless her, you can believe whatever you want to believe. And I'm not trying to be mean or attack. All I'm saying is, she's brilliant, but she came to a wrong conclusion. This is an erroneous conclusion. She said that evil is so necessary or is so part of our universe and the construct that if we here on earth would all start to make good choices and therefore earn good outcomes in order to balance out our good on some other side of the universe, an equal part or an equal amount of evil would have to be created to balance out the good we were doing here, because otherwise the entire universe would go out of balance. Okay. And that's just wrong. That's not the way it works. That's not how God works. That's not how source works. Okay. With all due respect and love for Elena Denon as a human being. Okay. God bless her. But that isn't like I said, the first 10 minutes were brilliant. The last 10 minutes and some of the conclusions were ridiculous. If we if we make good choices here, okay, that does not immediately create bad somewhere else to balance out our good choices. Okay, that's just about as ridiculous as that's like saying that, take a family, for instance. If child A, Bobby, does really, really good in school, okay, and there's another child in the family. There's only two children, Bobby and Susie. And in order for Bobby to get good grades in school and really excel, Susie needs to get bad grades in school in order to balance out the family. In other words, the family can't possibly be balanced if both children are brilliant and make good choices. It's an unbalanced family. I mean, when you boil it down to the simplest brass tacks, that's kind of what they're saying, or she was saying. You have to have evil to balance out the good. No, you don't. Okay, so causality, cause and effect here. There is something that I want to say about choice. Okay, and people are, this is the question, the next question. Okay, okay, well, if choice causes polarity, and that's what causes polarity, not good, not light and dark. What is the balancing factor in all of this? And this is where we need to go. This is where we need to go in our discussion, where I wanted to go. The balancing factor is the law of cause and effect. Okay. When we make choices, we will get outcomes. Okay. And this is the natural system that God Himself, the great creator, put into place to balance out our choices because free will is necessary. So now we're going to have a system in place that God Himself put there to basically show us, is the best word, the effects and the outcomes of our choices. So we have the law, God's law of cause and effect. causality. When you do this, this will happen. When you do this, this will happen. So it becomes a reflection, a mirror, which we can look into and say, oh, okay. So here's what the Luciferians did. Okay. They didn't like God's system of cause and effect because they want to be evil. They choose to be evil. The law of cause and effect is always chasing them wherever they go, punishing them wherever they go. So they think this punishment, that damn God who put the law of cause and effect into existence is punishing us every time we choose evil. That's the natural system. So what was their conclusion? We will hijack the system. Their conclusion is hijack the law of cause and effect, and we will write our own law. That's where the Luciferian the doctrines and the Luciferian system came into being. Okay, if the natural way of doing things is that evil gets punished or gets a consequence, our desire is to always choose evil, then we'll always get punished. Or at least we'll get a negative consequence because we're making negative choices. That's God's original law of cause and effect. So what we'll do is we'll hijack the whole entire earthly planetary system such that we will never be punished. Okay? We will basically figure out a way to control all money, all police, all judges, all courts, all corporations. We will find a way to control all of the systems, the natural systems, in a organically pure society, such that any mechanisms of punishment or consequence for our negative actions, which actually demand negative consequences, are moot. Therefore, now we can choose evil, and under normal laws of cause and effect circumstances, which would immediately draw to us a negative consequence or a negative outcome, that won't happen because we control the mechanisms and the systems here on earth which would punish us. Therefore, we can now do evil with impunity and not get a negative consequence. Ha ha, we're God. We figured that much out. But in order to do that, they literally had to institute systems here on earth that were so comprehensive and so extensive that they were controlling everything. They had to control all of the money. They had to control all of the governments. They made them corporations. They had to control all of the religions. They had to control all of the educational systems. They had to control all of the court systems and the judges. They had to hijack all of it. And I've written about that. They've hijacked all of it. What's the purpose of that? If you want to
they even control our thoughts now.
Well, we're getting there. Okay, we're getting there, yes. But the purpose of doing this was so that they who want to always choose evil will not get the organic consequences of their choices, which is God's law. And the way the universe is set up. The universe is set up for free will, yes. But if you choose evil, then you will get, through the law of cause and effect, a consequence or an outcome of that, which teaches you that, oh, here's the organic outcome of your choice. So don't choose that, or make a better choice. But they love these evil choices. So they had to, under these Luciferians, had to come up with a reason. And I said this before, that evil continuously shows up in our reality because it's coming into our reality as a result of all the choices they're making, which are negative and drawing in negative consequences. So evil and negativity keeps showing up. So the conclusion they came to a long time ago, especially in Atlantis, What they said was, oh, well, evil is necessary. We need 50% evil. That's the light in the night and the day, the light and the dark, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They created a whole religion around the idea that evil was necessary as a way to justify why it kept showing up. But even more to the point, they had to justify why the people who kept choosing evil weren't being punished anymore. See, that's a sleight of hand. That's a magician's trick. Why aren't the people who are choosing this evil organically just getting consequences that would punish them? Well, at that point, they had hijacked the system of Atlantis. And the people were wondering, oh, didn't you get the memo? There's a whole new philosophy in town, and that philosophy is evil is necessary, the light and the dark of it all. Okay? But there is a larger goal here. And here's where your idea comes in, Luke. The larger goal is that they wanted to steer reality. They wanted to control reality and always be able to predict the future for their benefit. And they figured, well, how we do that then, if we understand the true nature of what creates reality, and that is thought creates reality. Free will and thought, will and intention are at the very top. That's how God creates. Then we would never be able to control reality because every being on this earth is a creator being. We are all connected to the great creator. So all of our thoughts and all of our choices go into the mix of creating whatever shows up. We are all creator beings. So we are collectively creating the reality we see. Well, that wasn't good for the Luciferians because they're not getting the outcomes they want. This little handful or this group of people they're not getting the outcomes they want. And there's still the potential that they will be punished for what they're doing in the organic nature and process of cause and effect. They might get outcomes they don't want. They might even get punished for the choices they're making, which is what God wants. So the only way to assure that they get the reality they want and they won't be punished for the choices they're making is to hijack all of it, right up to the top level of will and free will and intention, on the level of causality. In other words, they have to control everything we think. And that's where we are right now. The great hijacking of the entirety of creation. But I can tell you that God won't allow it. They might get close. They might achieve certain goals in certain aspects right before God destroys them because they're stepping on his toes now. And they know it. They're just trying to convince you to go along with it. They figure if we can get the whole world stupidly, if we can get the whole world dumb enough, and that's why they're in their educational system, they're dumbing everyone down. If we can get the whole world dumb enough to go along with us, maybe God will allow it. That's their thinking. God will allow it if we all choose it by force. They're going to force us to choose it. And if we don't say no, like a 2-year-old, maybe I can get mommy and daddy to do this if I do this is manipulation. They're trying to manipulate now because they want to choose evil. They want to choose evil. And they don't want to be punished for their choices. Or get consequences. Don't even have to call it punishment. They don't want consequences for their choices. How do they get around it? Okay, so let's hijack the whole system. I mean, they're not stupid people. They're clever, they're ingenious, but in a psychopathic and completely sick, deranged way. That's they're evil geniuses, is what they are. They should be in straitjackets. They shouldn't be walking around on Earth. They should be in rubber rooms, and I've said that before too.
They should be in the pit of hell.
And yet they're running all the corporations. Go ahead, Luke.
I said they should be in the pit of hell.
Because, like I said, they've got a lust burning inside of them for all of the evil that they love to do. the raping of children. They love that, and the riches, and the life of opulence and luxury that they're allowed to live if they rule like they are doing. But even they realize that, that there is still other versions of reality that could come into play, because they understand how reality gets created, and they can't keep going like this. And they're terrified they're going to lose it all, because we all will figure it out eventually, and we'll all make other choices, and they'll lose everything. And they know that. So the idea is, well, how do we have to hijack everything right up to the top of the creational level, which is free will and intent. And we have to mind control every creator being on this planet so we can steer reality, and we can still maintain our control. I mean, it's just, they're foaming at the mouth like a rabid dog at this point. If you could see, how, in their private meetings with each other, and there is no one else watching, they literally foam like rabid dogs. How in the world are we going to steer reality? And the main lie that they continue to foist upon all of the people that are in their circles, the mid-level minions, the military, corporate leaders, clergy, even new agers, so that they will, and I'm not saying go along with it, but allow it and not take action against it, is that evil is necessary. Evil is a necessary part of the creative process. Therefore, if you're extinguishing us, if you come after us, if you try to put a stop to us, then you're going to put the creation and the whole universe is going to spin out of balance. So don't stop us. Just accept and tolerate us. And sadly, Luke, this is a conclusion that Carrie Cassidy came to in one of her podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was with the Patriot Underground. And remember how I immediately go, oh my God, and Carrie, as brilliant as you are, how did you come to that conclusion? And I just, okay, well, she's dealt with so many Freemasonic people, leaning people, so many Luciferian leaning people, and she's interviewed them, and she has respect for them, and she understands a little bit of their thought process, and she also understands the New Age thought process. This idea that evil is necessary. And she came up with the idea that we're just going to have to get used to the idea that these vampires, these ancient age-old vampires that are raping children and are pedophiles, are going to be around. And the reason she said that is because the universe allows for that. And the reason she said that is because she, on some level, has integrated this idea that evil is necessary into her thought process. So the conclusion she came to is that we're just going to have to get used to, they're always going to be here. There's always going to be pedophiles. There's always going to be, vampires. There are always going to be people that are drinking blood. There are always going to be people that are controlling things behind the scenes who have more power than others. That wasn't the way it was in the heyday, the pure heyday of Atlantis, or any of the other very high level societies that we had. The idea that evil is necessary wasn't at the core of their thought form process, and which is why they achieved greatness. Okay. Now, like I said, because this particular thought process was allowed to go on and on and on and on here in third density, eventually in the future, it ended up on fifth density and started creating tyranny over there. And believe it or not, that's the goal. Because there is a goal here that is no one, not even the fifth densities considered. If you truly want it to take over the throne of God, how do you do it? And if evil, pure evil, is relegated to the lower levels, how do you do it? Well, let's say that you have all of eternity to achieve this goal. How would you do it? You start from the bottom up and you formulate a thought process that says, we're God. Knowledge is the way to become God, and that evil is necessary. And then you take over a world like Earth with that. And then you take over a solar system. Then you take over a galaxy on third dimension, third density. And then you move up a level and you infiltrate the higher level with that same lie, that same con, that same thought process. And you take over that density level. And you say, look, we're not bad. We're not, evil is necessary. You have to allow evil. You have to tolerate it because it's part of the universe of creation. It's part of God. It's what God wants. He wants evil too. And they buy into that lie. And then all of a sudden they tolerate it. And then it spreads like a virus and a cancer and a disease. And it spreads and spreads and spreads. Now they got the fifth density level. Then they move up a level. Okay. And they come in with the same idea. It's all good people there. But they come in with the same idea. No, evil is necessary. It's part of the universe. It's part of God. You have to allow it. You have to tolerate it. And they start tolerating it because they don't understand the lie. And then they take over sixth density. Then they move up a level. And when they got all of the levels, you got all of creation, then they move on the throne of God. Okay? Because you got all creation now on your side. Evil is necessary. But the thing is, Luke, and here's where I'm going to make a Star Wars metaphor, and I know this isn't going to, I'm sorry, but I just have to go there. They have it right, because once you say evil is necessary and you start allowing it more and more and more, the goal of the Luciferians is to take over everything, because in the fullest development of their machinations and plans, they have to get rid of free will, okay, in order to control it all. They want to take, first it's tolerate us, just tolerate what we're doing, tolerate us, and we're taking over slowly, we're taking over, and we're infiltrating all of these systems. We know which systems we need to infiltrate, so that at the very end, after you tolerated us, now we're controlling the entire system, and the very end game is to get rid of free will, okay? And remember how I said evil is not necessary, free will is necessary. Now look at this very closely, Luke. Once we tolerate evil, and evil spins and spins and spins its web, what is the final end game of evil? To get rid of free will. So the people who are saying evil is necessary in order for balance, their goal is not only to unbalance everything, but to get rid of all possibility of balance. Make no mistake, that's the goal. And if every New Ager would just think this deeply, they'd see it. The end game of allowing evil and agreeing with the idea that evil is necessary, the end game is to get rid of free will. And the only thing that really is necessary is free will, because that's the way God created the universe. Give me a sign that this is making sense to you, Luke. Do you see that or not?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Absolutely.
I know it's very esoteric. It's very deep. Okay. And this is the type of thing that, would have been taught in the mystery schools, the ancient mystery schools, on a highest level. And yet we're out of time, because they've got all of the esoteric teachings, and they're really putting a mind job out on all of us. I mean, they're clever. Like I said, they're clever in a psychopathic, just murderous way.
They might be clever,
they give us philosophy.
They might be clever, but they're very short-sighted, because who in the hell thinks that this is going to be allowed, even if they almost get what they want, if that God is never ever going to allow this. Getting rid of free will, then he will take measurements that are beyond belief.
In the end, what they don't see is by hijacking the creative process or creation sciences to the highest level, they only ensure that it will be destroyed because it's like a piece of fruit that's now rotting. There is no life in it any longer at all. Life itself can't exist because God set up creation to exist in this way with free will at the very top. And once they expunge free will, then there is no life in the creation and it dies. It literally dies because it's no longer organic. That's why I said the destiny of all people who go this route is to become a machine because only a machine can exist like that. Only a machine. And where are they going? Transhuman. They want to make people cyborgs because now we're going to have to destroy creation in order to get our way. So I guess we all have to become machines. And they're turning human beings into machines or hackable animals. I mean, like I said, they're way ahead of all of humanity in their understandings of this esoteric stuff. And they've thought of these things. They don't want to give up. Somehow we've got to be able to have our cake and eat it too. Somehow we've got to be able to get rid of free will, take all of humanity with us, and still rule over them. Somehow we have to be able to defy God. In your face, God, and how you designed all of creation. That's what they feel they have to be able to do. Of course, the end goal, the result of their thinking is everybody has to turn into a machine. And I've said that because that's the only place they can go. The Borg, which is totally, completely, and wholly non-organic. Disconnect yourself from God completely, which is just like anti-God. It's pure anti-God, anti-creation as a counter force. And the organics will try to destroy it because they will see it as a anti-God force in the end. An anomaly that shouldn't be there. How did that get there? Even if they achieve it here, you know, forces and beings will come to destroy them just because it's causing problems. And ultimately, Luke, we have to remember that there are various versions of reality. Okay. That doesn't happen in every version because remember, God is big enough to encompass all of it and see it all. Just like the human body is big enough to encompass pure health, but then all of a sudden you get small parts of the body, certain cells that go cancerous and start doing things they're not supposed to be doing. Well, the body has mechanisms in order to heal all cancer and come into being whole again and healthy. Okay. And the way it does that is it, sends antibodies and it sends like certain systems to attack the cancer cells and get rid of them. Well, that's the way the entirety of creation is going to treat the versions of reality that go Borg. They're going to attack it eventually and get rid of it because God's reality can't function properly with that kind of cancer cell. Even if it's a whole solar system or galaxy, it gets eaten so that it doesn't harm the rest. Now that's the truth, because the mind of God is not going to allow for the removal of free will. So getting back to the original concept, free will is necessary. Yes, we have to have free will. And then the organic systems of cause and effect and the law of cause and effect and choices bring outcomes. Sowing and reaping, you reap what you sow. That's built into God's system as well, along with his rules and his regulations, which the Luciferians don't like. So they're in rebellion against the whole of creation, and they want to take it over. They want to hijack it. Ultimately, they're doomed to failure. And anyone who bought into this idea that evil is necessary as part of creation all they're doing is basically standing back and allowing the Luciferians to do what they want to do and commit the evil they want to commit. And by standing down and doing nothing, we just allow the whole entirety of our particular version of reality to be steered into a very dystopian, dark, and eventually probably to be destroyed version of reality. We allowed it because we didn't, we had false ideas, we had false concepts in our mind. And we didn't have the understanding of how the creative process works. So anyway, I think we're done for today. I didn't go as many places as I wanted to go and explain it in the way, I tried, because it's simple, but it goes against the common New Age philosophy. Do you have anything you'd like to add at the very end, Luke?
Yeah, just for clarity, I was thinking, because you talked about yin and yang, and I was thinking, is it too far-fetched to say that the yin-yang principles are derived from the evil is necessary and is thereby a calm?
Yes and no. Okay, see, ultimately, the yin-yang principle is based upon the idea of polarity, and polarity is part of the process. Mm-hmm. Choice creates polarity, okay? Mm-hmm. Not magnetics. That's the difference. Boy, we could write a mm-hmm. book on that. Choice creates polarity, okay? Because this is, oh man, boy, if we could only just get a few really, really smart people in the classroom who could get this. This is the dividing line between the physical reality universe and God. Okay? Because people who believe that magnetics and spin create the yin and the yang can then create a possibility and a potential for a universe without God. Because it's all physics. Above this is mind, will, and intention. Okay? If you say, no, it's not magnetics that creates yin and yang and creates polarity, it's choice that creates polarity, you are allowing for the idea that the mind of God and our mind and our free will is the creative factor of the whole entire universe, not physics. Okay, I went really deep. Sorry, people. But that is the dividing line. So to say that the yin and the yang is, it depends on how you interpret it. Okay, is yin and yang causing polarity? That's wrong. Okay, it's the choice. Our ability to choose is what causes the polarity. And that's why I said what I said in the beginning. Once polarity has happened, that gives rise to harmonics, the sound, the various tones. Okay? It's like playing a piano. I choose to play this note, and I choose to play that note. And when I play this note and that note, what happens? The strings are struck, and two notes are played, and that creates harmonics. And the harmonics creates the tone. And it is the tone that creates vibration. And the vibration creates the geometry. I know this is esoteric and it's deep. My apologies. We were going to... what I've said is valid, okay? With all sincerity and with all truthfulness, what I've said is valid. This is the problem we're facing, okay? And you're either going to look into it deeper. Maybe someone will one day invite me onto their program and say, explain this. You've said this, now explain it. Oh, okay. But up until that time, listen to the podcast and may God bless. All right, Luke, I think we're there. So we'll just say we'll see you in the next podcast. All right.
Okay. See you in the next one. Bye for now.
Bye.